You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hello there. How are you doing? I am reading a book and I'm getting into a routine every morning where I come downstairs before the kids wake up. I light a candle, I put on jazz, and I pick up this book. And you guys, this book is amazing. It's called Facing Codependence, and it's by a woman named Pia Mellody. And I'm on page, let's see, whatever, doesn't matter, 39. But what I do is I come downstairs and I always read with a highlighter and a pen. And then I highlight the sentences or paragraphs that really stand out to me. I usually write in the margins. And then I usually get interrupted by one of my gazillion children. So the next day, because I have a terrible memory, just because I'm getting old, y'all, I will start reading the sentences that I have highlighted from the day before. And that really helps me remember, because how often do we read these self-help books and it's so much steps and reasons, and your brain goes a million miles a minute because it's pulling up stuff that you're having epiphanies over. But then, and it's a good book, but then you put it down and you can't remember a darn thing that you read. I don't know. Maybe that I have friends that does not happen to. I am in awe of them. Every book that happens for me. So I can't read without two different pens in my hand. So maybe that technique will work for you. Regardless, get this book. You guys, I was actually thinking about, not to sound too trendy because I feel like everybody's doing book clubs right now and I hate doing what everyone usually does. But it's so good. I'm either going to write a codependency program because I'm getting so inspired, or I have to do something on this topic because we have to go there. And not amazing, this is not even close to being amazing, but the thing is, I'm going to tell you two stories this podcast. The first one is about my friend, and this is the thing. So she was reading one of our newsletters that I send out because she's a good friend like that, and she subscribes even though her husband is not even close to being an alcoholic or have addiction problems. She's just a friend. And she's like, I'll support you. Here's my email address. And she's been subscribed for 10 years. So she's like, Michelle, normally, to be truthful, I don't really read your emails. And I'm like, of course you don't. Why would you? But she said, this one, I don't know, the title caught my attention. And in our emails, we have lists of books that you guys are reading, like what you're finding really helpful. And it's a new feature in our email that I'm loving. And so she said, I was looking at one of the books, and one of your sisters, one of your people in your community, said she's reading a book by Pia Mellody. And I went on about codependency, and she's like, I know I am definitely codependent. So I went out and bought it, and I'm going through it, and she pulled it out, and she had all these highlights and notes, and it was really exciting. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, that's great. And I don't really need to get that book because I used to teach a class in codependency every week for years. So I've got this covered. Like, I know what I'm talking about here. I don't suffer from codependency anymore. And then she started reading me some of the things in the book, and I was so quickly humbled. I was like, oh, wait a second. I might need to revisit the topic of codependency. Because here's the deal. You know how I often say, even if you leave the one that you love, you still have kind of issues and baggage you need to work on that you'll take into your next relationship if you don't deal with them. This is the big aha moment I have had recently, is that once a codependent, kind of always a codependent, no matter what relationship you're in. And so I learned and mastered the skills of codependency as far as it pertains to my relationship with my alcoholic or substance abuser. But I have not used or mastered my codependency skills, not so much in my marriage with my, sorry guys, that's my dog barking in the background. I'm in my backyard. Not so much in my relationship with my marriage, because I feel like that's a pretty healthy relationship. But as far as like past pains or trauma from my childhood, or how I'm handling my friendships, or even my relationships with my kids, I've never really examined codependency under that umbrella. So I figured, why not go on this journey together? We can apply it to all areas of our life. I'm going to revisit it, and you're going to learn more about it because I'm going to be teaching it, and we'll just do it together. So, which brings me to my next story. The first one was my girlfriend. Oh my goodness. My husband is putting together a little like compartment for the top of our SUV because we're taking our oldest son to college in 4 days, and we couldn't figure out how to like get all the luggage in the car. And so he is literally building something like one of those big compartments that attach to your roof of your car. And my bulldog thinks that it is a stranger trying to break into our car. So she's, quote, protecting him. So I apologize. Little side tangent there, but that's what's going on there. So distracting. Is this the most distracted podcast I've ever done? Yes, I think so. And I am so sorry, because this is just my reality these days. I'm trying to serve you during this virus, and I'm trying to do the best I can. But good Lord, this is just crazy times. Okay, so next story. This is a good one. And thank you for your patience, and thank you for your grace and allowing me just to be real with you. Of course, there's an airplane flying overhead now. Okay, so this is an excerpt from the book that I want you to hear, that I think will be super helpful for you. And then I'm going to tell you a personal story, okay? So here's the excerpt. That is the loudest plane I have ever heard in my entire life. It is also the slowest. You would think it was like right above my house. I'm so sorry, guys. Please forgive me. Please, please, please. Okay, it's passing. I'm so sorry. This podcast feels so unprofessional to me. And normally I like to have everything perfect and tightened up for you, but that's not happening these days. So just roll with me. Let's be laid back together. Okay, so here's the excerpt. All right, it's only one sentence. So it says, damaged boundaries could cause a person to take responsibility for someone else's feelings, thinking, or behavior, such as when a wife feels shame and guilt because her husband insulted someone at a party. Now, we have a whole course on boundaries, because if there is one skill that we have to learn, all women and men need to learn, it is boundaries. Boundaries are the best gift you can give to yourself. Mastering them is key to living a happy life. But actually, the idea of having damaged boundaries and applying them to taking responsibility for someone else's actions really, really resonates with me. And I think it's going to resonate with you. And it reminds me of a time when I was married to my ex-husband, who we all know suffered from addiction in a major way, still does. And he was very successful. He was smart. He was good looking. He was the whole package, right? And he was pretty high up, and we worked together, believe it or not, in a pretty large company. And he was climbing the ladder because he was very likable. He's very charming. Some might call it manipulative. I think, though, his core was just a really nice guy. Very funny, had it all. So he says, Michelle, we got to go to this Christmas party for work. and it was just his department. And his boss was some very, very wealthy man, one of those super fancy houses that you drive up to and you're like, oh my Lord. Okay, so I sit there and I go, all right, I get it. I need to be the wife, the good wifey, and use my manners and dress appropriately and do all that stuff. Why do I mention dress appropriately? Because I have a problem with dressing appropriately. For some reason, like I dress nicely in real life. I know how to dress nicely. Let's just say that. For some reason, you guys, I am cursed with never appropriately dressing for any event. It's not like I come in there looking like, a night lady or whatever you call those, women of the night. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about it is a constant theme that I show up for events in completely the wrong attire. So, for example, we were in Kiowa at a wedding and there was an evening cocktail hour. And I'm thinking, okay, Kiowa, South Carolina, preppy, whatever. Everyone's like not going to be that dressed up. It's just cocktail. Wrong, Michelle, wrong. I told my husband, who is a loving, wonderful man, and looks to me on what should I wear. I'm like, just wear shorts and a button down, loafers. Like that's, I actually went on Pinterest to be truthful and like Googled it. Like, what do people wear? He's the only one wearing shorts. You guys, the only one. Everyone there is wearing suits. Everyone. I show up with just a casual, simple look. Every girl's wearing cocktail dresses. Just wrong. Why do I bring this up? Because we pull up to this house and it's a mansion and I get out and my ex-husband had said, oh, it's casual. They're very laid back. So now, please don't roll your eyes, but I wear jeans. Okay, yes, I am aware. Terrible mistake. Who wears jeans to a Christmas party? I get it now. Back then, I did not. So I show up in jeans, and I have a nice top on. I'm kind of redeemed myself on my upper half, but my lower half, not so much. So I walk in, and immediately I'm like, and I did it again. Totally did not nail the attire. And the hostess walks up to me with her open arms, and she says, oh, welcome to my house. And she's adorable, like beautiful. And she's wearing sparkles, like sequins, and she looks amazing. And I said immediately, because I've done this before, I'm so sorry. I must have misread the situation. I apologize for my jeans. I completely am not dressed appropriately. And she says, oh, this is what she said, which I thought was so kind of her. She said, oh, well, I'm the hostess, so I want to stand out with my attire and look extra, extra fancy. You're dressed fine. You're dressed great. You're perfect for the occasion. I was not at all. But she came up with that on the fly, which I thought was really impressive. Everyone else came in dresses and cocktail attires. And they had, at this party, it was a poker night themed. So they hired this like a gambling company or whatever. I don't know. But they had a full bar. You know where I'm going with this. They had waiters, and then they had all these poker tables set up. I've been to Vegas once, but I never even played in Vegas. Whatever all those Vegas games are, they had the whole basement set up in this. And so immediately I see the open bar and I think, oh no, this is going to be a very, very interesting night. And you guys remember, I don't drink because I hate alcohol, because it's ruining my family. And I'm hoping my husband will take my lead and be inspired by my non-drinking and join me, which never worked in 10 years, by the way, not once. And so immediately he goes right to the bar, orders his first drink, and I start to feel a pit in my stomach and start to get completely worried and all in my head. and I'm experiencing what I am learning and what I've known, codependent behaviors, where I'm suffering from anxiety and I'm taking on already the my husband's poor choices and the results that are going to happen, that I know are going to happen. So you guys know where I'm going with this. The night goes on and he's drinking more, and I'm counting the amount of drinks, and I'm looking on my face like I'm having a fun time, and I'm laughing, and I don't know how to play, but I'll just do whatever. And then, but in the back of my head, I'm going, oh my gosh, he just got drink number 4. Where is he? Who's he talking to? What's he saying? Is he embarrassing me? What is he doing? Is he flirting? Is he throwing up? Is he just leaving without me? All of which has happened in parties before. I'm not having a good time. I'm being his babysitter. And this brings me to the quote in the book, And Boundaries, which is, I was constantly at many, many, many public occasions being embarrassed and humiliated by my ex-husband's ability to get wasted, and taking it on as if I had something to do with this, as somehow my responsibilities as a wife were neglected because my husband was misbehaving, which is such a bunch of BS. Instead, I am a grown woman showing up at a party as an individual. And if he is choosing to misbehave or embarrass himself, then my only job is to stay in my own lane and let him behave accordingly. I don't need to make apologies for him. I don't need to go around, pulling him aside and letting him know, hey, I think you've had too much, honey. You might want to slow down. I don't need to walk up to the waiter and say, listen, you're over-serving. Would you mind? He's got a problem. Would you mind just slowing it down? I don't need to go around cleaning up behind him all the conversations and apologizing for him or making sure everything's fine. I don't need to do any of that. None of that energy, none of that manipulation, because it is manipulation. What I needed to do and what we need to do when our loved one is displaying obnoxious behavior or embarrassing behavior or whatever, we need to sit there and watch them for a second and remind ourselves, you know what? That is not me. I love that person, but that person is not me. I am separate. I am a separate individual from the person I love. They are not a part of my limb, although it feels like they are. They're not my arm. They're not part of my leg. They're not attached to me. They were not created by me. I do not own them. I do not take responsibility for their behavior. And just sit back and watch them behave and we need to remind ourselves constantly that we need to have a sense of humor, right? We can look at this and laugh a little and go, good Lord, how the heck did our lives get here? This is cray-cray. You can, if you feel like you can't, that's unreasonable, like, Michelle, give me a break. I'm not laughing. I can't laugh at a time like that. That's a pipe dream. Okay, that's cool. I respect that. Then maybe you just look back and go and watch them and just go, you know what? That is sad. That must feel really, really sad. I feel embarrassed for that person's behavior. That person's behavior is not my behavior. And then you check yourself. You check your behavior. You make sure that you are staying in your own lane. You make sure your conversations don't include them or you're not apologizing for them. And if you're uncomfortable, you leave. You grab your keys and you leave and you say, you know what? This isn't making me happy. I'm taking responsibility and ownership for my own feelings. And I'm not going to storm out and make some big production scene or even grumble and gripe about it. I'm just going to go back to my house, have a bowl of ice cream, watch a British murder mystery show, and enjoy my night. Because I am a grown human being that gets to make my own choices And I don't owe anyone an explanation, and I don't owe anyone an apology, and I don't have to clean up anyone else's mess, and I don't have to take responsibility for anyone else's decisions on whether they get sober or better or not. And if they did something super embarrassing or humiliating, and I know my friends are feeling uncomfortable about it, let them clean up their own mess. And this applies for children too. I know that this is going to be painful to hear, but it's one of the biggest life lessons I'm learning with my kids. My kids have their own agenda, and I got so many of them. They were each born very, very, as different people. All of them have very different personalities. I can't take ownership for this. I can't sit there and control my children, and I've learned it because I was married to an alcoholic and substance abuse and realized I couldn't control them. And trying to control somebody else, anybody else, other than yourself is a waste of time, and it means that we are unhealthy, and it means we have to focus on ourselves. And we have to do self-care and personal awareness and growth, right? So that is my story. Well, what happened is if you want to know the end of the story, he was getting wasted. I was feeling very uncomfortable, so I threw myself into poker. It wasn't real. It wasn't like playing for real money. You got like tickets when you walked through the door. And so I was like, I don't know how to play and I don't care. I'm betting big. It's like bet big or go home, right? Because what have I got to lose at this point? I felt like my world was falling apart anyways. So I started betting big. And you guys, I started winning. And they had then, like, if you won, you got like raffle tickets or whatever. So I got all these, like, kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, you know, how, like, if you win at the game, you get all these like tickets come out of the machine. So at the end of the night, they had a big raffle for all these prizes. There's like 4 prizes. I won 3 of the prizes, including a new camera. I gave back 2 of the other prizes so that everyone else can win, which was kind of, now looking back on it, loving / codependent of me. But anyways, I had a ball in my jeans. You guys, sober, no drinking, in my jeans, winning prizes. And I don't remember, honestly, what happened with my ex-husband or anything. I just remember being the big winner of the evening and having a good time. So that is my story, and I love you guys. Thank you for bearing with me with the dog and the airplane and all the background noise. I so appreciate it. And I love you, and I'll talk to you next week.
This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with Michelle's personal thoughts and beliefs. From one woman to another, bonded together by the fact we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.